All right, I think we are all present and accounted for. Welcome to the 5:30 p.m. March 26, 2024 presentation City Council meeting. We do have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting to order. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? And the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, would you please read the rules to speak?
Yes, sir. This is a city council meeting to hear special recognitions and presentations. Council will not take formal action on the agenda items. All individuals wishing to speak may do so under petitions and requests. No sign-up card is required. Citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak. All sign-up cards and exhibits being submitted to City Council shall be placed in the box on the table.
Thank you very much. City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. We are on agenda item 4A, which is special recognition and presentations. This is the Employee of the Month for February 2024 and March 2024. Chief Lau will present to Sergeant Cesar Torres, who is out with an illness right now, and Officer Sarah Page. So, Chief, all yours.
Thank you very much, and even though Sergeant Torres has the sniffles and can't make it tonight, we're going to go ahead and present. Actually, both Officer Page and Sergeant Torres, although independent incidents and recognitions, dovetail together. And not to take anything away from Officer Page and her accomplishments, this is pretty much across the board what you see from our officers. So in Officer Page's example, she had an encounter with someone who was clearly transient in nature and had a bicycle and was acting out and really starting to show a little bit of signs that there was distress. Officer Page went over, and although technically wasn't a police matter, was handling the issue and found out that he said, "I'm at the lowest point of my life right now. Everything keeps going wrong. I have a job interview across town and my tires are flat on my bicycle. I can't get there." And you know, as what happens with, you know, human nature, as things are going bad and more pounds on, even something very, very small could be the straw that broke the camel's back. And in this case, Officer Page took it upon herself to take him to Walmart with her own money, purchase tire tubes, install them with the young man, and now the young man to this day. And as a matter of fact, Officer Page told us yesterday that even though she'll be coming around town, Officer Page, look at my tires. And so really in a very proud moment and prideful moment for that person. So this is why we are recognizing Officer Page. And I don't know which order it was, but since Sergeant Torres isn't here, Officer Page is first on the list. So congratulations. That sounds good.
Well, that's not as good, but go ahead. And then I'll have a word.
What's that?
Present her. Are you done?
Oh, no, I thought you were going to present her.
Oh, we're all facing the wrong way. Come back here. Right there. Okay. There. Put that in front of you. Hold on. However you want to be. Don't talk. Hey.
Put her in the middle.
Put her in the middle,
Put her in the middle.
Yeah, put her in the middle. Thank you so much.
And if you could stay up here and meet your
Quiet up there, please. Anyway, I just want to say, and again, I can say it to everybody here. I can say it every single day. And another example right here, a passion, a care, and a concern for people make you a difference maker. Make you a difference maker. Of all the things that you are, and I was going to say, of all the things you're called, you're a difference maker. And again, I don't ever say this without starting at the top. Chief Lau is a difference maker. These guys who I know are difference makers. Amy's a difference maker. You're a difference maker, and you made a difference this time in a life that we know about. You do that every day, and we don't know about it. So thank you for what you do every day, all of you. Thank you.
So I'd like to see how we're going to do the pictures with Sergeant Torres.
Oh, yeah. So, and real brief, but I think it is extremely important that folks hear what Sergeant Torres did. He got a call for service. He went up into Dairy Plaza, Winn-Dixie, and saw two definitely juveniles. I want to say they were like between like 10 and 14 years of age. It was a very rainy day. They were obviously soaked. When he interviewed and talked to them, found out that their mom and I guess soon-to-be stepdad had come down, the family of four had come down from Iowa for a job, and the job fell through. So they were actually on their way, the two adults were on their way to Cocoa Beach. They had slept in the woods that night, and it had rained. It was one of those really, damp, cold, wet nights. So it tugged on Sergeant Torres's heart, and so he started, investigating further. Got in touch with them. They got back from Cocoa Beach. All in all, they passed the hat around the squad, and there was nothing. They put them up in a hotel that night, but there was nothing else for this family in Florida. So the squad actually raised enough money to buy 4 plane tickets back to Iowa and had a receiving crew on the other end when the plane, so that they were able to get out of town. And again, what's interesting is our city manager asked about this when it happened, and I had no clue because this happens every day. It happens all the time. And so I was like, well, I'll check into which squad handled passing the hat around, because this is just the nature of what the officers do on a daily basis. And in most cases, I'm telling you, they don't want the recognition. They don't do it for the recognition, which is really kudos to their heart and their servant leadership hearts that they have. So when I know our crew isn't going to give Sergeant Torres a hard time when you see him for not being here. But anyway, thank you for the opportunity to dote on our amazing officers. So thank you, guys.
On to item 4B, which is a proclamation for the Irish American Heritage Month. And Mr. Brian McCann, are you present? If you'd come up. An official proclamation, Mayor, if I can, I'll read it for you. An official proclamation of the city of Titusville, Florida, whereas the Irish first came to the territory later to become our great state of Florida in the 1500s, serving as missionaries, mercenary soldiers, and later as planters, traders, businessmen, and doctors and administrators. And whereas nearly 300,000 Irish nationals had immigrated to the American colonies by 1776 and played crucial roles in the Americans' war for independence and the establishment of a system of government to our newly birthed nation. And whereas 8 signers of the Declaration of Independence, 22 American presidents, the first flag officer of the United States Navy, the founder of the first public school in America, and Florida's first military governor, have all proudly proclaimed their Irish American heritage. And whereas since the founding, Irish Americans have contributed to our country as a place of hope, opportunity, and providing leadership and service to the nation's political, military, business, and religious establishments. And whereas it's fitting and appropriate to reflect on our past, to applaud the achievements of all of our Irish American citizens who contribute richly to the city, our state, and our nation. Therefore, I, Daniel E. Diesel, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Titusville, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of March as Irish American Heritage Month. Signed, Daniel E. Diesel, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Want to say a word, or are you good?
Just like to say thank you very much. As you know, Irish Americans have played a great deal in history. Of course, in the first responder category, a lot of in the 1800s, a lot of the Irish became cops and firemen and did a lot in politics too. And I'd just like to say thank you for recognizing the Irish American.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate that we can do this most every year, and I've just always been impressed with the pride that you all have in your heritage. It's not a cockiness or anything like that. Maybe sometimes on a Friday night, maybe, but for the most part, yeah, you're right. And my mom always used to tell me about how the Irish came in and they were the first responders, the first responders. And maybe there's something to be said about your heritage that that's the first thing they wanted to be. So thank you so much and congratulations on the heritage that you guys have. Thank you. Thank you.
On to item 4C, which is the FY23 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. And our External Auditors Act from the James Moore and Company will present the Independent Auditors Report covering the city's FY 2023 Comprehensive Financial Plan. Zach, all yours.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Zach Shallofor, partner, James Moore and Company. Good to see everyone. We are here to review the annual audit for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2023. Did get a chance to walk through with a few of you in a little more detail, so we'll keep this pretty high level. Any questions as I go, feel free to jump in. I do want to start off, as always, thanking the council for the opportunity to work with the city. We really appreciate this relationship. You all have a great team, which I do want to highlight their work as well. Terry and her team, Jen and Phyllis, are here as well. As I mentioned to a few of you, and it's been kind of a theme for me this year, it's hard to find good people. I feel like, in pretty much any department or field, I have a bias towards government finance, where I've seen how hard it is to find and assemble a strong government finance team. And this is one audit that has been kind of reliably scheduled, completed to hit this meeting pretty much, I think, almost just about every year that we've worked with you all. And that really is a testament to the team that you have, because in recent years, we just see more and more governments that are having staffing issues, other issues, and can't get the books closed out in a timely manner, where your team has been able to do that consistently. And it's something that I think I normally would take for granted a little bit, but as we've seen so many challenges elsewhere, I did want to really highlight that as a reflection of the performance of your team, really getting all their work done. There's a lot that goes into it from there of that process, knowing that, hey, we scheduled the audit for this week, and your team's going to be ready to go when that time comes around. So to hit some of the highlights, let's see if, is this not on probably? No, it is. There we go. So as in past years, the city does prepare what's called a comprehensive annual financial report, a series of additional items, a transmittal letter, some additional schedules, and then the 10-year historical statistical section that are above and beyond the minimum reporting requirements to the state of Florida. This document every year is submitted to the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, for evaluation as to its compliance with the program. And the 2022 financial statements were awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. And we expect to see that again when the current year financial statements are submitted to the GFOA by your team once again. From an audit report perspective, while these are management's financial statements, there's 5 reports that we issue that summarize the results of the audit. The first one is the audit report on the financial statements themselves. We did issue an unmodified opinion that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. This is what you want to see here. Effectively means that the numbers are materially accurate and effectively can be relied upon. We also issue a report on internal control and compliance. While we do not audit the city's internal controls, that would be a separate type of engagement, we do look at your internal controls and in performing our testing over financial activity, if we came across any deficiencies in the design of a key internal control or issues where the control did not function as intended, or we had significant audit adjustments, changes to the numbers to help get to these financial statements, we would report those comments here. We had no modifications, no internal control comments reported here, as well as no compliance issues identified, whether related to grants, debt, budget, or otherwise that impact the financial statements. From a single audit perspective, this year we had both the federal and the state single audit, which really required us to take a more in-depth look at your ARPA expenditures and some of your SRF loan expenditures, really focused on compliance, and we did have no issues there. Did note that we believed the city to be in compliance for those major grant programs. The last two items are required by the state of Florida, kind of a catch-all looking at any financial position concerns or red flags that may come up. We had no modifications to that effect. And then we did also note the city to be in compliance with state statutes over investment activity and investment policy. So really a clean slate all the way around looking at the audit reports that were issued. From a fund balance perspective, the general fund, of course, is the primary operating fund of the city. In total, about a $2 million increase here from about $18 million to a little over $20 million in total, looking at the general fund assets minus liabilities. I'll jump to the next slide where what I always like to do is kind of put that into perspective to say, okay, there's some non-spendable fund balance that's really just a timing difference. But if you look at your true unrestricted reserves in the general fund, your assigned plus your unassigned fund balance, comes to about almost $11 million, and this is excluding your separate stabilization and disaster fund. And looking at that 10.9, almost 11 million relative to what you spent, about 48.5 million, you're at about 22.5%, so 2.5, almost 3 months in reserves by this measurement. The GFOA recommends a minimum of 2 months, acknowledging that when you consider other factors, you may want to be higher. The biggest one relevant here, of course, being a coastal community in the state of Florida. That's one of the big areas that would kind of fall into that, hey, you should be to some degree above that minimum. When we factor in the disaster stabilization fund, you're at about 4 months in total, so at a very healthy level overall, a little bit over that minimum recommendation, and have come a long way in the last 5 or 6 years since we started working with the city. On the next slide, I like to always look at your enterprise funds, the bottom line number being the unrestricted net position, kind of very similar in terms of a bottom line figure that is unrestricted resources. The caveat, as in prior years, is that for 3 of the funds where you see brackets representing a negative figure here, that's really driven by the allocation of the pension and the OPEB liabilities. Even though those aren't really operational liabilities, you're not going to have to cut a check out of those funds to pay that. Those are more for kind of long-term informational purposes. So it kind of distorts the numbers at face value. So I like to highlight is the fact that all of those, when you exclude that, look at just the operations, are in the positive. So no red flags from that standpoint. Otherwise, we do tend to look at a trend analysis to say, okay, are we moving in a positive, negative direction? The only item of note was solid waste. Just the cost there. This is really kind of something that we've seen universally, whether you do it in-house, such as the city of Titusville, or use a third-party contractor. Those expenses have been absolutely kind of going off the charts for everybody. I know there was I think 8% rate increase for the current year. So that's really just something that we see as, hey, let's monitor that, see kind of where the dust settles, what those expenses look like in the long term, because again, there have been many factors impacting just the solid waste function for local governments, resulting in pretty substantial increases in costs, as you all have seen as well. And then I always like to touch on the pensions and OPEB as well, just to show a 5-year trend of what the net pension liability and net OPEB liabilities have looked like, as well as the funded percentages. Year over year for 22 to 23, the market in general terms, kind of was pretty much on par, more or less with expectations. So for both your pension plans, those percentages stayed within 2% of the prior year. So overall, no major issues or concerns. I always just like to emphasize the fact that, you're never as good as you look, you're never as bad as you look when it comes to pensions. It's always about taking the long-term view, and whenever you do have a decision point, saying, okay, where are we at and what's best for the long term, not just today, but looking decades down the road for both the health of the plan and the health of the fiscal impact of those plans on the city. So again, that's a quick version. Those are the highlights, but I'd be more than glad to answer any questions, and thank you all again for the chance to be here.
Council, any questions?
I'm just going to say, the second time around, it makes more sense. Thank you.
All right, that sounds like a good one. Good? All right, thank you very much, as always. I appreciate it. And
All
thank
right.
you, thank
Thanks,
the team
y'all.
out there for doing the things you do and being ahead of the curve. Thank you, City Manager, as well. City Manager.
On to item 4D, which is the multimodal transportation plan. A presentation by the community development staff will give an update on the status of the plan. The plan, it was implemented in 2019, and it's a long-range schedule of transportation projects to include recreational trails, on-street bicycle lanes, sidewalks, intersection improvements. So Brad and Nicholas are here to present to you.
All right, guys, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, so I'm going to cover, got some slides here just to give you an update on what was proposed and adopted in 2019, kind of where we are now. So as just stated, the long-range goal for the plan included improvements to recreational trails, bicycle lanes, improvements on sidewalks, and some intersection improvements throughout the city. Overall, there was a total of 49 projects that were proposed to be completed. So I'm going to spare from reading every single one of these on here with you guys. But these are the goals that were addressed within the plan. We've provided here some maps to show you where those specifically are laid out throughout the city. So there are two. We had broken up into north and south here. So these projects are the ones that were listed for the bike lanes. So what I did is I went ahead and highlighted the ones that have already been initiated. Some of the first steps that were proposed were to conduct some studies. The study portion of things has been completed on the ones that are highlighted here in green. The next step is to implement. These here are for the sidewalks. These were the proposed intersection improvements that are proposed here within the city, as well as some of the trails. So since this was adopted in 2019, currently we have completed 11 sidewalk final designs. Those were completed on January 3rd of 2021. We've also completed 6 bicycle improvement studies that were completed in August 20th of 2021. Some of the funding sources. So the plan recommended to increase the sidewalk funding and set aside funding for bicycle facilities and transit improvements. Some of the sources for the city is the general fund, impact fees, CRA, the CBDG, and the sidewalk trust fund. This, in 2019, the CIP had allocated $100,000 per year for sidewalk repair, as well as an additional $40,000 for CRA infill. This amount has fluctuated a little bit up and since then. I'll have to get, Brad, I'm not sure if you know the.
So this is what was estimated to be the amount that the city was allocating for these types of improvements back in 2019. It's fluctuated somewhat, like Nicholas said, hasn't really increased a lot. But Public Works has been trying to fill in sidewalks where they can with the funding available.
Additionally, there are several grants that we are able to apply for. However, I do want to note that most of the grants that are on here do require matching. So, I can provide you with a breakdown of those things as well. One of the recommendations that was in the multimodal plan, as far as the sidewalk trust fund goes, is to potentially make a policy change as far as incentivizing the construction of sidewalks. Although, while we do have the sidewalk trust fund, what we found is retroactively going back and putting those in later is more difficult and typically more expensive. So the plan does recommend to evaluate that policy and potentially make some changes there. And that was it, short and sweet. So available if you have any questions regarding everything here.
Member Nelson?
There's an area that I would really like to see us add to the plan, and it's that area from Titusville High School
just gonna
on
say that.
Hopkins
What do you
to the mall. I mean, every time I go past it, it's 2 feet wide, and I don't know what could be done.
I think I'm a little different. You said to the mall?
South on Hopkins from Titusville High School.
South on Hopkins Side. Okay, I want to, if you don't mind, I want to interject and add to that, because I was getting ready to say, we always have I forgot who he is. He always comes and very respectfully says, what
Oh,
about
yeah.
the sidewalk north on
Yes.
Titusville High School? You go past Sycamore, I think we're good there, but it's when you go across the street, all the way up to whatever else is there. It'd be nice to have sidewalks there. So at this point, I would certainly like you to look at both situations behind Titusville High School, sidewalks south, sidewalks especially north, because they don't have them past Sycamore. And that's not called Sycamore there anymore.
What's it called? Oh, wait a minute. It's named after the funeral home.
Yeah, I know. Amos Lewis.
Yeah.
Amos Lewis, pitcher for astronaut. If you don't know that, he went in the big leagues. Anyway, I think this is the daddy though. So that being said, if y'all could check that out, that's again, if the guy comes in front of us again, I want to be able to say, because last time he was here and we had Kevin comment on it, and he said that it's in the works, that it's in the plan, it's coming down the road. So we'd like to note that. City Manager.
I will tell you that one of the issues with that intersection is the crossing arms. We've got the poles set right now, but the arms are over by the post office. The installation will occur here probably the next couple of weeks, so that'll complete all of those intersection changes. But I can't give you an update on the sidewalks. We'll have to come back to you.
Okay, thank you. Member Stokel.
Yes. A couple questions. Thank you for the presentation. In regard to the grants, what's our status with that right now? Since you said most of them are matching grants, are we trying to actively do that? And we do have funds to try to maximize, our efforts?
So the first thing I started doing was going through and looking at the grants to see when the openings are, the matching requirements. I've been collecting that data to take a look at it. And then from there, we just have to evaluate as far as the match goes.
Okay.
The grants, most of them do require, like was already stated, a match of some sort. That usually means we can use some other source of funds that might not be city maintained. It could be state, depending on what the grant says. They each have different requirements. But there's one, for example, on the list that we have here, Safe Streets for All. That's something that's came out from the feds just a couple of years ago, and there are a couple more rounds of that grant available for planning-related studies or for actual implementation. But that one requires a 20% match, and you can't use other federal funds for that.
Okay.
So that's typically what federal funds require, or those grants. They don't require, they allow you to use other federal funds to match with that. So you have to find some workaround with other agencies such as FDOT or your own local funds to do that.
The construction on 405, there will be some improvements done, which actually involves crossing. You can see the road construction signs up on South Street right now. So that'll improve the crossing. And from Cheney all the way to US 1, every one of those intersections are going to be touched by FDOT and changed to help with the crossing at those intersections. So that's already funded, and it'll happen beginning in '25. So that adds to, again, the safety of pedestrian crossings on a busy highway.
Okay, and that kind of leads into my second question on, I know we said we prioritize them like low, medium, high. What are we trying to look at? Are we trying to look for safety and making sure, like, do the bicyclists have a safe place so they're not potentially getting hit by a car? Like, how are we doing that process?
So we have been, from what I understand, the past few years, really allocating funds for about 6 miles of paving of roads. And if we can use some impact fees for those improvements, such as filling in sidewalks where we can, because that's where those impact fee money can be used for. So sidewalks, on-street bicycle lanes. I think from what I understand, the goal really internally is to try and focus on filling in sidewalk gaps more than any other kind of improvement. that's up, if council decides to make a different decision as far as policy direction. But the plan was outlined all the projects to help us create some kind of interconnected network in anticipation of all the regional trails that were coming here. The reason why we're bringing this up to you is kind of like 5 years later, we want to show you where we've been, where we are with it right now. There have been some difficulties with it because of the funding mechanisms. There are tools that the legislature has approved this year that might help. We're monitoring them to see if that bill is, one particular bill in particular is signed, and see if that might be an option.
So when you're talking about priority, our priority is to encourage, it's twofold. It's to encourage people not to drive,
Okay.
to have safe ways to commute without getting in a vehicle. So the key word to that's safety. So I don't want to put a pedestrian on a roadway that has no sidewalk, because that's not what we're looking for. So safety, and to get you out of your car and get you into another mode of transportation.
Okay, thank you. And then my last thing was, one, yes, the bill. So thank you for bringing that up. I wasn't sure how that would impact us. And then to, I guess, the city manager's point, mine was, I think as we're growing as a city, my hope would be, as one of 5, that safety would be the number one priority as we're having more vehicles on the road, and if we're trying to get them out and about moving in different ways, that we can protect them the best we could. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Member Cole.
I noticed on the sidewalk trust fund slide, you said that you may waive a developer from putting in a sidewalk. Why would we want to do that?
That policy's been in place for several decades. It's been tweaked here and there since its adoption. But basically, my experience with it is the administrator of the city, what's been designated me to kind of review these, right, obviously with other people's help to see if it's even meets the criteria. But the request comes in that we cannot put it, or we cannot put in the sidewalk. We'd like a waiver. So the code says, I review to see if where there is an improvement scheduled within 5 years for a sidewalk within that area, then we can waive them having to put in that sidewalk because we have something planned. If we do not have an improvement planned within that time frame, they cannot get it waived. However, now they can ask, the next step is to try and see if it can be determined as unpractical or not practical. That's what the code says. And so there's different criteria for that. And so then I realize I have to rely on engineering and design and topography or whatever conditions are going on the property to see, are they really able to put in what we're asking to put in. And a lot of times those requests are approved. If the waiver is approved, they do not have to contribute into the trust fund. If it is determined that sidewalk is not practical, then they are required to contribute the cost or value of that sidewalk into the trust fund. What the consultant was suggesting at the time when this was developed, this plan was developed, was that you should try to make waiving sidewalk construction as difficult as possible, because trying to go back and put that in actually is more expensive. So the consultant was even suggested inside the plan, recommended some changes to that particular policy in our code. We didn't pick up on it. We didn't bring it back before City Council. The plan was adopted. We were trying to implement it. So we did not bring back individual specific recommendations like this back to City Council to see what we would like to do.
I guess my question was based on the fact that I understand if it's not practical to put in a sidewalk, because we had someone here a couple of months ago saying it was difficult to put in a sidewalk. But I'm trying to figure out why we would want to expend funds to put in a sidewalk when it could be a requirement for the developer to do it. That's the crux of my question.
From a planner's perspective, I agree. It's much cheaper to require at the time of design and construction. But there are circumstances where it is difficult to put it in. Like, we can certainly understand that.
I'm saying if it's not practical, I understand that, but just to waive it because we have plans to put one in ourselves, the monies that we use to put that in ourselves could be used somewhere else where we need a sidewalk. So I don't know if anybody else agrees.
I agree.
Mayor, can I touch on that?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
I think in the past and I could be wrong, I've been up here for a while, but it's been in cases where they're developing a project and there's no sidewalk around it at all. And that they just said, this seems dumb that we're gonna build a sidewalk here and
nowhere.
it's not connecting to anything. And
We've had
so
that
they'll
debate.
choose to do the truss at that time. And then in the meanwhile, development starts to happen and they're like, oh, where's the sidewalk? And I think that was the intent behind that sidewalk trust. So I think that's when it happens. Hopefully it doesn't, because yes, I prefer for them to pay for it as well.
Member Nelson?
Question, you were talking about changes to the policy for the Sidewalk Trust Fund to better incentivize the construction of sidewalks. Do you have something in mind that you want to look at?
There's specific language in the plan that the consultant suggested.
Okay.
Oh, it's in the agenda. We can refer to it. Actually, while you have it here, we can.
You good?
Brad's looking.
He's still
for
looking?
something. Not sure what, but he's looking.
I'm trying to see if I can bring up that specific recommendation for you. Just give me one moment. Page 15 of the plan, that's page 30 of your packet. And it states in there in that page of the plan, it says current policies. And you'll see there, and I guess it starts in the third, after the two paragraphs there, it says specific changes to consider to section 30-238. That's a reference to that sidewalk waiver policy in the code. So at the time, he suggested specific language that we could use to help amend that particular section of the code related to that policy.
Okay. Thank you.
Member Robinson, Vice Mayor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. Could you I know that with TPO and all of the bike trails, and kind of share with us how that's blending together to make it all work, please.
Well, with this plan, we decided this in 2019 because of what they were planning to do back then. The TPO was going to overhaul or revamp their trail plan, their bicycle and pedestrian improvement plan for the whole region, or the whole county, rather. And so we thought that it would be a good idea to go ahead and do this. We got approval at the time from you to do that, to do this plan, to kind of meld it with what they were trying to do, to see if there were any particular projects that could qualify for certain funding that would come from through the TPO.
Very good.
We'd like to, get the mayor on his bicycle to
That's
come
right.
to City Hall, but right now there's gaps that he can't do that without going on a major road. So we're filling in those gaps to try to encourage folks to get on those ultimate means of transportation.
I think we need pictures of that.
I was going to say, if I can do it, anybody can do it, right? Look, the mayor did it, you can do it. Member Nelson.
This is just a short question. The trail going to the beach, bike trail, are we still on 2027 or have they changed that?
So I think, Vice Mayor, you might be able to fill us in, but I know the the engineering study up to the pay station
Okay.
is ongoing. I think construction funds for that portion have been slid,
Okay.
and I don't know what the dates on those are, but the original plan took the bicycle trail all the way safe, segregated from the main road all the way to beach number 1.
Right.
The current plan, it ends at the pay station, and that road up to the rest of the way, that 35-mile-an-hour area becomes dual use, which as a bicyclist, I would not go on that road dual use. So
Yeah.
we're still trying to work to get safe passage all the way to beach number 1.
Okay.
Anybody else?
very good eye-opening report. I'm glad we got the sidewalk stuff out there, and I appreciate you taking notes and keeping track. There's a lot, but I think that we're moving in the right direction, and I appreciate you guys. Nice report. Thank you very much. City Manager.
And the last is the Community Development Department Spotlight. This is item 4E. And as council knows, every year as we go into budget, each department will provide a 5-minute presentation on their department. This is the first one, and Brad's lucky to be able to start us off with a bang, right?
We hope you enjoy it.
The Community Development Department consists of the Planning Department, Development Services, the Building Department, Neighborhood Services, Economic Development, a Redevelopment Planner, Sustainability Planner, and GIS. The department is responsible for the review and approval of all development proposals in the city. The Planning Department provides review and analysis of land use and development proposals to ensure compatibility with the community standards as established by the city's comprehensive plan and land development regulations. The planners ensure the city's comprehensive plan is consistent with state requirements and analyzes land use and development patterns to maximize smart growth. The planners help develop new public policy per City Council's direction, and they facilitate public participation and community engagement in the planning process. The Redevelopment Planner implements the city's downtown redevelopment plan and budget and assists the Executive Director with the Community Redevelopment Agency. The Redevelopment Planner reviews building and design plans for conformance to the city's downtown mixed-use zoning district development standards. The Sustainability Planner implements the city's Sustainability Action Plan, including submitting grant requests that focus on resiliency and sustainable development. The Sustainability Planner also serves as the staff liaison to the Titusville Environmental Commission. As part of the city's development review process, the Sustainability Planner verifies low-impact development best management practices proposals and administers any necessary agreements for compliance with the LID ordinance. The Development Services Division serves as the centralized point of contact for all new residential, commercial, and industrial projects. Staff is responsible for conducting technical engineering reviews of all new development proposed in the city. Staff reviews site plans, landscape plans, grading plans, utility plans, drainage studies, and traffic reports related to each proposed development to ensure that all new development is conducted in compliance with the technical requirements of the city's land development regulations. The division provides technical assistance for variance requests to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals and waivers to the city's Administrative Level Development Review Committee. The Development Services Division also issues all business tax receipts, also known as occupational licenses, to businesses and certain nonprofits throughout the city. These include commercial, retail, industrial, mobile vendors, and even home-based businesses. The Building Division reviews all vertical building construction plans and permit applications, as well as issues permits for construction, redevelopment, and building improvement projects and inspections. The building official and city engineer are the city's floodplain managers and help the city maintain its community rating in FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program. The city's participation in the program helps residents and business owners obtain flood insurance. The Neighborhood Services Department has grown to a team of 7 employees and serve as the city's administrator for various federal and state grant programs related to housing, public services, community development, and revitalization strategies throughout the city. The department is tasked with developing and managing neighborhood revitalization and affordable housing strategy area plans regulated by the U.S. Department of Housing and the state of Florida, and oversees the operations of the Harry T. Moore Social Service Center and its community programs and services. The department formulates and implements the city's 5-year Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan, Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Program Annual Action Plans, and the State Housing Initiative Partnership 3-year Local Housing Assistance Plan. Additionally, the department leads the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee in the development of the city's annual housing incentive plan. In addition to managing these ongoing federal and state grant programs, the department serves as administrator of several special or one-time grants relating to affordable housing and human services, such as the American Rescue Plan Act, National Opioid Settlement, Neighborhood Stabilization Program, Coronavirus, and Live Local Act programs. The department negotiates, regulates, and monitors these programs and associated subaward agreements to ensure subrecipients and funded projects are in compliance. The Economic Development Department is tasked with the strategic planning and execution of initiatives aimed at enhancing the city's economic landscape. Its duties encompass attracting new businesses through targeted outreach and development programs, supporting the expansion and retention of existing businesses, and facilitating job creation to bolster the local economy. Furthermore, the department serves as a vital liaison between the city, its business community, and other governmental entities, ensuring collaborative efforts towards economic sustainability and development. The Community Development Department is currently working on comprehensive plan amendments related to the Titusville Tomorrow project. The purpose of the project is to incentivize redevelopment in the downtown and on the city's major commercial corridors with flexible development standards and increased density in key areas. In addition, the project envisions opportunities for infill development in the Canaveral Heights neighborhood. This project should be completed by the end of 2024.
Very good, very well done. Just like all these other presentations, there's so much more, so many more things, so many more whack-a-moles than we know. And I appreciate what you guys do. And again, sometimes it's a thankless job, but I appreciate it. Member Cole?
You know, I've always enjoyed watching these presentations. Do we put them on our website? Okay.
Good question, well
And
done.
Jim Thomas, who puts them together? I mean, they're very professionally done.
I was thinking the
Very
same thing.
professionally done.
And I think if you hear the narrator, it's that guy right there.
It goes on YouTube. Oh.
You're the narrator.
Most of the time.
Okay.
I recognize some
Wow.
of the actors. I saw Will in there being an actor.
Shane was in there too.
Okay, see? Yes.
Very good. Member Stokel, you good? Okay. That's good. Thank you very much. I see nothing else. We're on to petitions and requests. Petitions or requests from the public? I don't know. Depends what you want to say. There comes Azelle.
Good evening, ladies and
Hey, buddy. Your name and address for
My
the record.
name is Isaiah Hickman.
I knew
I
that.
was at W.C. Stafford Street. And I'm here complaining I got a tree in my backyard. Well, it's in the ditch in my backyard. And I can't get no insurance on my house until the tree come down. It's on city property in the backyard. But I was told if I didn't sign a paper saying that I'll be responsible for my shed or house, then they couldn't take it down. That's at W.C. Stafford Street in the back of my house.
So I guess my question is, the tree is on your property, correct?
No, the tree on the city property.
Okay, and now that would have to, I get staff involved to see if the tree is on city property and see what that is. If it's on private property, then clearly we can't do anything with it. Brad, you want to help me out with that? Anything we can do or not do?
This is the first I've heard of that, so I'd like to speak with Mr.
Okay,
Hickman and talk about it, see what the
so
options are.
you'll talk to him.
I
Okay.
didn't bring my help with me,
It's
so
all right.
it kind of hard me. Yeah.
Talk to him, and he'll get the notes and see what he can do, okay? So
Okay.
talk to Brad for me.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hickman.
And the other thing, I apologize to you for Martin Luther King during the bathroom issue. We had an issue, them young people just didn't put it out now, so I want to apologize.
Oh, you don't need to apologize. I know you work hard every time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. We don't do cards for this. You just come on up. Name and address for the record, and then pull that down a little bit.
I'm a little short, sorry.
There you go.
All right. My name is Dawn Smith, and my address is 3641 Fraser Court,
Okay.
and that's in Titusville. This is my first meeting, so bear with
You're
me.
doing great. There's not many people here. Don't worry about that. It's like we're just talking.
Yes. One of my concerns where I'd like to find some more information out is about the Apollo Gardens, like the location and actually, what it's there for. We've heard some different things. My mother-in-law lives there, and there's a condo association called Spanish Oaks. And there's actually a lot of elderly people that currently live there. So, that's why I was here for the development portion of it. There was somebody that reached out and they said they weren't sure if it was this meeting or if it was April the 4th. So.
I can't tell you know anything about that situation. Apollo Gardens coming this way. It's never come in front of us. I will say I'm going to defer this to the city attorney if there's anything you want to say, simply because I understand that there was some kind of litigation that we really, truly, people have come to us for over a year now. And it's not anything that is planned to come in front of the council. It's nothing that's coming our way. I can't tell you what's going on out there in the private sector or lawsuits between individuals and Apollo Gardens. It's really kind of over there, and we're watching, meaning that it's not in our chambers and it's not on our desk. And if there's anything you want to add to that to clear up how I'm saying that.
I cannot speak to the status of the project. That would be the planning department. With regard to litigation, there was litigation that an individual had filed for a declaratory judgment against the city and the developer. That case was voluntarily withdrawn by that individual, so litigation has been concluded. As far as any meetings or anything else to do with that, I would have to defer to staff on that.
Defer to who?
Staff. I'm not sure that staff's project. With regard to litigation, you're right, that was dismissed by the plaintiff in that case. That litigation has been withdrawn.
As close as it's come to us is when people like you have concerns and say things to us. But there's never been an official, it's on the agenda. We're going to talk about this. We can approve this. We don't approve. It's not ever come our way. And I'll just leave it at that. It would have to be staff and go from there. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, we can certainly answer questions about any particular project that we have under review or under construction. So I can leave you my card, and you can certainly speak to our staff at the Community Development
Yeah,
Department.
I would like to do that.
Yeah, and again, he would be the guy because it's not to us, and whenever it might come to us down the road, he would be the guy and city manager to explain to us what it's all about. So
Okay.
I can't say what I think, but anyway,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I have to meet with you then? Yeah.
All right.
Anybody else?
No, city manager? Anybody else here? Let's go 25 till. We'll dismiss till 25 till, gives us 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This meeting is adjourned.